All right, this is our Ultra Pulse crate. We're going to be going over the unpack process so that when we can show up to the demo, we leave the laser in good condition for the field engineer or the sales rep. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the laser. Laser's removed from the front side of the crate. The narrow end with the hinges here opens up via these clasps on the side. Swing our door open. We've got a couple braces that we need to remove. The first one is securing the ramp in place. It lifts up and then out, just like that. We'll lower the ramp. Brace number 2 is right here by the casters of the unit. That also lifts up and out. Now we'll use this handle here to guide down the laser on the ramp. We've got the laser out. Next, we're going to remove our Pelican case, which is the digital AccuBlade kit. It's labeled with a little label right here. We'll set that next to the laser. And we'll replace our braces. Just like that. We can go ahead and close the front door. All right, next we're going to go to our wide side of the crate for the different components of the Ultra Pulse. Again, door opens via the clasps here. While one of you guys holds the door, the other will just remove each of the components piece by piece and set them next to the laser. Each of these components are configured for a certain piece, and there's a foam cutout for each. So as we're going through the unload process, if we notice that any of these are missing, we want to stop and take a photo, report that to TechTrans so that we can get with Luminous to make sure that that piece can be located. The last piece here is the articulating arm. We've got a couple removable braces that are putting this in place. These come out by simply lifting up and pushing out. You can just set them aside while we get the arm out. With the braces removed, just get a good grip and this arm will come out of the foam cutout. Just like that. We'll set all those pieces next to the laser so that they're all in the same place. Once we remove the arm, we'll make sure and put our foam pieces back where we found them so that they don't get misplaced. Now we can close the door once all our pieces have been removed and placed next to the laser. Finally, we'll open up the back door of the crate. It's the one with no hinges. Remember, the hinges side contains the laser. We'll remove the foot switch. And the wide accessory box. All right, so now we've got the laser out of the crate. We've got all the pieces set aside. To start the assembly process, we're going to first start by attaching the tower, which goes right on top of the laser here. So one thing you should notice when the laser's in transport, there should be a couple pieces of tape guarding it from dust getting inside of the housing. We want to remove those, and we'll be throwing those away. So with our tape removed, we're going to be removing these 3 screws using a 5/32 Allen wrench. Be very careful when you're removing these screws to not let the screws drop in to this hole here. All right, so we've got our 3 screws removed and set aside. In order to reattach the tower, we're going to place each of the three screws into their position on the tower so that we can use the screws as a guide when we're guiding this tower back into position. Take note that there are 2 pins that this tower is going to go into. There are 2 corresponding holes on the tower that go into those pins. So we'll use that as a reference and the 3 screws and the 3 screw holes as a reference. Carefully put those into place. If everything's lined up, it should click into position. We're going to use our 5/32 Allen wrench that we use to remove the screws to tighten them down. It's very important when we go about tightening the screws, reach through the hole here and place your finger behind the screw as support so that the screw doesn't fall in whenever you're tightening it down. Once the screws have been tightened down firm using the ball end of the wrench, you want to switch over to your L side of the wrench and really make sure that they're tight. Next, we're going to remove these 3 Phillips head screws to place the tower sleeve back on. Just set them aside for the moment because we're going to be putting them right back. With our screws removed, we're going to take the sleeve of the tower, slide it back over, make sure it recesses below this metal bracket here because there's a cutout that matches that same shape. And we're going to replace the 3 screws that we just removed. With our sleeve in place, we're now going to remove these 3 screws using our 5/32 Allen wrench. All right, so we're going to put the articulating arm into position. It's very important to make sure you've got the arm in the correct configuration. There is a sticker here that shows which direction should be facing up. Make sure that this is right side up before you try and place it into the tower. Once that's confirmed, we'll carefully place this cylinder into the tower position and line up these triangular brackets here with the triangular brackets on the tower so that the screw holes can match up. Once that's in place, you can gently lower this portion of the arm to rest against the front side of the laser, just like that. And now we're ready to reattach our screws. So with the arm in place, it's time to replace our screws into their original position. Might have to rotate the arm a little bit to give you enough clearance. Use your 5/32 Allen wrench to tighten that down. So once we've tightened down the screws, switch over to your L section of the Allen wrench to really make sure that those are tightened down firm. There we go. All right, so with our arm attached and secured, our next step is to put the cap back on. We'll do so by removing these 3 screws on top with a Phillips head screwdriver. We'll remove and set aside each screw because we're going to be replacing them right back as soon as the cap is on. We'll take our tower cap here, place it in position. The circular piece goes with the circular sleeve over the tower. Rectangular piece goes over the rectangular bracket. And then we'll replace those 3 screws and tighten down with the Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, so before we put the counterweight on, we want to remove this rubber O-ring here. Set it aside, we'll be putting it right back. So to load our counterweight onto the arm, we want to make sure that the cutout with the counterweight lines up with the cutout of the arm. And we want to make sure that our dial here faces out. The longer portion of the arm will face over the tower. So line those 2 up. There we go. Tighten down the dial. Put this O-ring over the end of the brace just like that. All right, to attach our smaller counterweight, first we have to remove this screw using our 5/32 Allen wrench. Take the smaller counterweight. There's a cutout that lines up with this section of the arm. Just place that into position and then replace that screw that we just removed to secure it to the arm. Once we have the arm stowed, we want to push this lock in here to lock the arm. We've got our counterweights in place. Now we're going to go through the motion of stowing the arm. So we'll bring the arm down, place it into this cutout here, lower this latch, and then push this button in to lock the arm. So next we want to attach our handpiece support arm. There's a pin that drops straight into this port here. You may need to loosen this a little bit by rotating it counterclockwise. Just drops straight in. You can rotate it clockwise to tighten it. And then to hold the arm in place, you can actually rotate these levers here clockwise. Make sure those are tight so that the arm won't move. So to attach our foot switch, we'll actually make sure we note the orientation of this port. There's a pin here at the top that lines up with the top of this port, so make sure that plastic pin is facing up. Place that into position and rotate clockwise to tighten. And then to attach the foot switch, these two ports here line up with the two holes on the back of this foot switch, and it just goes into position like that. So with our assembly complete, the final step will be to place the digital AccuBlade Pelican case and the white accessory box next to the laser system for the engineer or sales rep, and our delivery is now complete.